In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all the laws.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. And again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
The wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with our Internet broadcast partners, CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, and iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They are all .coms. And joining me today as my co-host is the patriot from the Silver State, the battle-born state of Nevada, Sharon Angle. Sharon, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's great to be here on Conservative Commandos radio show with you on a Wednesday.
And it's great. It's great to have you with me, Sharon. It's great that we are here. You know, radio stations are mechanical just like anything else. And just before I was to leave for the station, I tuned in to WNJ 1360. It was off the air. I tried to get it back on the air remotely, wasn't able to do so. Jumped in the car, beat it down the street, made the turn, accelerated a little bit faster than what I should have. Lo and behold, there was a police officer there. I explained to him, he stopped me, he asked me where I was coming from, where I was going to, do I know what I stopped them for? And I says, yeah, I took out there a little fast. And I says, I'm on the way to the radio station because we're off the air. It's dead air. So I'm very thankful that that officer did understand and did cut me a break. And it just goes to show, Sharon, if you're nice to people, they'll be nice back. And you never know what good things come out of being nice to people. He could have given me a ticket, but he didn't.
That's right. Well, generally they are pretty nice guys, those policemen. They get a pretty bad reputation, I guess, when the progressive socialist media thinks that it's a good thing to hit hard and on our police force, and it really isn't. Those guys are out there to protect us, and they do a good job.
Indeed they do. Indeed they do. And, you know, I tell people all the time, if you get stopped, if you had an attitude, you're in for a bad day. Because, like it or not, police officer, when they stop you, they're the judge, the jury, the executioner on how the rest of your day is going to go. And it's just been my experience that if you're nice to them, chances are the outcome of that day are going to be a lot better than if you're snarly or nasty to them. Really.
Well, that's right. That's right. And you know, I know that everyone's experienced the grace that a police officer can give. If you're a, like you said, if you just treat them with respect, usually they'll treat you the same way. And I know I've escaped a few tickets.
Yeah. He says
because he understood what was going on.
Yeah, he understood what was going on. He asked me why he stopped me, and I was honest with him. Yeah, I took off a little fast out there, didn't I? Because, yeah, you did. And, you know, it's, as I said, when you're stopped by the police, act respectful. You know, no matter who you are, and chances are you're going to have a better outcome than if you didn't. Seriously. It's the way it goes.
That's right. That's right. And I think that that's the lesson, actually, that we've been learning nationally. You know, it was disrespect for the policemen that have caused quite a bit of the struggles that we've seen here recently. Just people not understand that policemen don't get up out of bed every day thinking of mean things to do. That's not, that's not who they are. And
they're doing a job. You know, they're out there. They're trying to make the neighborhood safer. I can understand that. Where they're trying to protect people from hurting or injuring themselves, and I understand that. And they're just doing their jobs. But I do appreciate them out there. Sharon, we got about 3 minutes before we go to a break. Anything you want to talk about before the break, or?
Well, you know, Rick, I'm pretty concerned about what our president has been doing with Israel here of late, and this whole idea that he's wanting Israel once more to give up land for peace or create a Palestinian nation within their nation. It just seems outrageous that he would be so arrogant as to tell Israel what to do and to make alliances with Israel's enemies. It just puts us in such a bad position, and I just can't understand it. I don't know what's going to happen to the United States if we abandon Israel.
Well, Sharon, one of the problems with Barack Obama, he's a community organizer. He's not a student of history. Because if he was a student of history, he would know that Israel has tried land for peace in the past, and it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, Sharon. Barack Obama, read your history books, please. You're a dangerous man, Barack Obama, because you don't know history.
Well, I think if he were reading history, he would know the historical part of the Israeli country, which is those who bless Israel are blessed, those who curse Israel are cursed. And the way you act toward Israel is actually what will come upon you. So if you treat Israel well, you will be treated well. If you treat Israel badly, you can expect that same bad treatment as a nation. And that's not a judgment that should be taken lightly, because whenever God is the judge in a, it's a whole lot bigger than Barack Obama, even though he may not think so.
Indeed, you're right. Hey, Sharon, let's take that break, and maybe after the break we can pick up this conversation about Barack Obama and how he's hurting Israel and things like that. But you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel, and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and around the world with our internet broadcast partner, CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They're all .coms. Today's show is brought to you, like all our shows are, by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Don't go away. Sharon and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today, for freedom in our land, to save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-266-1037. 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You're right, Congressman West. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or you can check out one of our internet broadcast partners. Like mornings at 9 a.m., you can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. They rebroadcast the Conservative Commandos radio show. Or you could also listen from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Sharon Engel, right before we went to the break, we were talking about Israel, how it seems like Barack Obama is abandoning them. Do you want to pick up the conversation?
Well, that's right. You know, I was reading in Israel Today, which is one of those outside of our country news sources, so they get a little bit different perspective on what's going on in the world than we do. And what it said is that Palestinian officials, cited by Ynet on Wednesday, said that the U.S. President, Barack Obama, intends to formally bequeath them the eastern half of Jerusalem when he unveils his Middle East Peace Initiative in Cairo next month. Mm-hmm. How can he give away half of Jerusalem to the Palestinians?
How can he give away land that isn't his? Who does he think he is, Neville Chamberlain, who gave away part of Czechoslovakia to Hitler? I mean, who does this man think he is?
Well, it's just arrogant, and it's interesting because the Israelis declared Jerusalem their capital.
Yes.
When they were first a nation, it's been their capital since 1950. But because of political debate, other countries have their embassies in Tel Aviv. Now, why would we have our embassy in Tel Aviv, except that we just don't want to recognize Jerusalem as the capital? And if we don't recognize Jerusalem as the capital, then I guess Barack Obama can give away half of Jerusalem. I don't know. It's just amazing.
It is amazing. You know, Sharon, I hope our Jewish friends are out there listening to this, because this is Barack Obama who wants to give away half of Jerusalem, which is part of Israel, to the Palestinians. And I hope that our Jewish friends are listening, because there are so many Jewish people that support Barack Obama and this Democrat Party, and I don't know why anymore. This Democrat Party is not the Democrat Party of your grandfathers. It's not the Democrat Party of Harry Truman or John Kennedy. This is a party of wackos.
Well, it is. And you know what's interesting to me about this whole scenario is that they say in their article, America's last two presidents refrained from calling for the redivision of Jerusalem, which actually was illegally occupied, according to this article, by Jordan from 1948 to 1967. And we're coming right up on Yom Kippur. In fact,
Jordan don't want it back.
On now.
Sharon, Jordan does not want the land back. They really don't.
No, I don't think so.
Sharon, have you ever been to the Holy Land?
I have.
So you know, once you get to the east of Jerusalem, of the city of Jerusalem, there is nothing. I mean, there is nothing but desert all the way to the Jordan River.
Well, you're right.
And Israel uses this buffer to protect itself. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners know how small Israel is. It's about the size of New Jersey. It's about, I think it's 173 miles long. It's about 55 miles wide. It's not a very big place. So if you give the West Bank to somebody, then it's narrowed to 9 miles. You're narrowing Israel to 9 miles, which gives them no protection against an invasion. And the protection that they have right now is not a lot. As I said, it's only about 55 miles wide. It's crazy. But
it is.
But it just fractures me, Sharon. Barack Obama, wants to give Jerusalem to the Palestinians.
Only half.
The audacity.
Only half.
The audacity. Hey, Sharon, let's go over our list of guests for today. Who will we be speaking with?
Well, we're going to be at 3:35. We're going to be speaking with Andrew Herod, who's a freelance researcher and writer who holds a Ph.D. from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy and a J.D. from George Washington University Law School. And he was admitted to the Virginia bar, and he has published over 250 articles concerning various political and religious topics at American Thinker, Daily Caller, Front Page Magazine, Faith Freedom International, Religious Freedom Coalition, Washington Times, and others. And he's a fellow at the Lawfare Project, an organization combating the misuse of human rights law against Western societies. He's going to be talking to us about veterans will see no Iran peace in our time. So it's going to be interesting to hear what Andrew Herod has to say about this Iran deal. And then following him at 4:05, we have Myron Ebel, who's Director of Energy and Global Warming Policy at Competitive Enterprise Institute. In 2010, the Financial Times called Ebel one of America's most prominent climate change skeptics. And in 2009, the Business Business Insider's Green Sheet named him third in its list of the 10 most respected global warming skeptics. So Myron Ebel has been called enemy number one to the current climate change community. He's also appeared on numerous television shows and evening news reviews, including O'Reilly, Hannity, ABC Evening, CNBC. But he's coming to talk to us about California's path to climate nirvana and how it's hitting some snags. So he's going to be on site with us today just to talk about climate change one more time and the hoax that it really is, Rick. We have a special treat at 4:35 for us.
Yeah, we're going to do something a little different at 4:35, Sharon. We're going to talk to some of our listeners. Yeah, we're going into some dangerous territory here. So we're going to be talking to some of our listeners to see what's on their radar screen. Something a little different here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Sharon, let's go to our next break and get that out of the way, and then we'll come back and do some really important stuff. But you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, and around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners like CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Planet Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, NAMFM247.com. They're all .coms, actually. A couple other .coms for your websites, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Don't go away. On the other side, Sharon and I are going to be speaking with Andrew Herod.
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss mortgage Mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
This is Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader, and me, Sharon Angle. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please click on our website, www.crsnetwork.com. and ccrshow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. log on to the leadingedgeradionetwork.com. Now you can also listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Rick, we do have our next guest with us. It is Andrew Harris, a freelance researcher and writer who holds a Ph.D. from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy and a J.D. from George Washington University Law School. He's admitted to the Virginia State Bar, and he has published over 250 articles concerning various political and religious topics at the American Thinker, Daily Caller, Front Page Magazine, Faith Freedom International, Religious Freedom Coalition, Washington Times, and The World, and among others. And he is a fellow with the Lawfare Project, an organization combating the misuse of human rights law against Western civilization. Andrew, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Oh, it's always great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's always our pleasure, Andrew, and we were really interested in this last article that you wrote, Veterans See No Iran Peace in Our Time. That's kind of startling. Iran peace is what this whole Iran deal is supposed to be about, I thought, and yet the opening of your article is just frightening. It says, if you push this deal through, you will have the blood of U.S. service members on your hands, said veteran Brian Mast. What does he mean by that, and what's going on here? I thought we were going to get peace, and now he says it's blood on your hands. What's going on, Andrew?
Well, this was a press conference that took place this last September 8th on Capitol Hill, right outside the White House, down by the Ellipse. It involved, among others, several veterans from America's conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as former CIA Director James Woolsey and Foundation for the Defense of Democracy's expert on Iran, Michael Ledeen. But in particular, the veterans spoke out against this deal. Brian Mast, there you quoted, was an Army ordnance disposal unit, a bomb squad, and last served with Special Forces in Afghanistan, where there he lost both of his legs and some other wounds, as you can tell, as he mounted the stage at the press conference with both leg prostheses. And he lost his legs to an Iranian-made IED, improvised explosive device, that actually had Farsi language writing on it. And so these various veterans were discussing how if you're going to have this bill, in particular with the sum estimated of $100 to $150 billion of sanctions relief for the Iranian economy. Now, if you start, Iranian economy currently is estimated to have a GDP of about some $945 billion, according to statistics listed at the Heritage Foundation. So that's some 1/5 of the entire size of the Iranian economy that we're giving away in this sanctions relief to Iran. And so many of these veterans who had fought in Iraq and Afghanistan and bore the direct brunt of Iranian training of various militias and also Iranian weapons deliveries of improvised explosive devices, or also these in Iraq, and particularly these EPFs, explosively formed penetrators that were so devastating in attacking American vehicles like Humvees and penetrating through their armor. Then you're just going to further supercharge, as one of the veterans said, this dangerous regime, so that in the future they can arm their various allies, Hezbollah, other militias in Iraq, and then they can simply do mischief against America and its allies around the region and the world.
Well, so how does this make peace for us? It sounds like Sarah Stern's right. You quote her as well in your article. And she says that it just gives international consent for the Iranian nuclear bomb. So it sounds like it's escalating rather than bringing peace.
Well, it does raise a fundamental question. I mean, the deal has been sold by Obama and his allies in the administration and in the Democratic Party as being a deal that will sort of, it's been compared, for example, other panels have been to it as kind of like a Nixon going to China moment of being able to initiate a more cooperative relationship with Iran and bring Iran into the international community and to thereby sort of stabilize it, normalize it. But if you have a regime that is still, as these veterans and others are saying, very, very dangerous and has a very dangerous ideology, very much of a revisionist state, a rogue state that's very aggressive against America, against Israel, against other allies like the Arab Gulf states, then if you're going to have this deal, you're really not solving anything. You're just increasing the danger. And indeed, everyone, including President Barack Obama and other supporters of this deal, have always insisted that the military option must remain on the table. If there's any sign of cheating of Iran towards its commitments under the nuclear provisions of this agreement, then we have to be ready to take on and confront Iran. For example, Hillary Clinton, September 9th at the Brookings Institution, was very forceful in saying, I expect Iran to cheat or to bend the rules, and that's why you need someone like me to be president, because I'll be ready to stand up to Iran. And she was even more forceful than Obama in calling the Iranian regime a brutal, ruthless regime, and saying, yes, I will use military force. But then you wonder, if that's the case, if we're still facing a dangerous regime, why are we giving so much to this regime? That just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And you quote several who really agree with you that it doesn't make any sense. I was looking at some of these guys that you have in your article, Michael Ledeen, for one, who has said that the Obama supporters have said it's either the deal or it's war. But he says the war is on. The war has been on for 36 years. Now, I don't think that our listeners probably think of an Iranian war as something that's been going on for 36 years, but you can explain how he got to that number, can't you?
Well, Ledeen, of course, noted that ever since the establishment of the Islamic Republic in Iran in the 1979 revolution, overthrowing the Shah, Iran has engaged in continuously in hostile acts against the United States and others. You can think of course, that year the Iranians, the students there in Tehran, seized the American embassy and held the 52 American hostages for 444 days, as is always said. Then you had Stetson, the Kevin Stetson, the brother of Robert Stetson, was noted in the article, was there. He's a United States Navy SEAL, and his brother Robert was a Navy diver who in 1985 was murdered in an American uniform during the hijacking of a TWA flight, TWA 847, by Hezbollah terrorists backed by Iran, who singled him out and shot him. Of course, then you have the 1983 bombing of the Marine barracks in Beirut, also by Hezbollah, again backed by Iran. And then with American engagement in Iraq and Afghanistan with these military conflicts there, Iran on both cases has supported our enemies there with training and munitions. Also, there's even an al-Qaeda link to Iran. People talk about al-Qaeda being a Sunni Muslim organization, whereas Iran is a Shiite Muslim regime, but such groups can indeed cooperate with one another when it serves their interests, and it has been noted that Iran has indeed facilitated the transit of various al-Qaeda operatives across, say, Afghanistan or Iraq. So this just unremitting hostility from Iran to the United States, or also against Israel, if you think of the 1994 bombing of the Jewish Community Center by Iranian operatives in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And there's always then been, throughout the years, throughout the decades, just a sort of low-intensity conflict brewing with Iran. So there's just no sign here of any moderation or peace or goodwill by the Iranian regime towards us and the wider world.
Well, you wonder where Obama's been for the last 36 years after you've gone through all of the history that we have with Iran. We're coming up against a break right now. Andrew, can you stay with us past the break? Because I know Rick Trader would like to have you answer a few questions as well.
Okay, that would be excellent.
Great. Well, we'll be back in about 2 minutes. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNGC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit Press, Free Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7, and those are all .com. Now you can listen to our show at any time on our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Rick Trader and I'll be right back with our guest, Andrew Herod, after this message.
They say I'm nasty, but
Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Listening to Conservative Commando Radio Show with Rick Trader and Sharon Angle and our guest, Andrew Herod. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. Now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Andrew and I were just talking about veterans who don't believe there's going to be peace when we get through with this Iran, or if we go through with this Iran deal. And Andrew, we were talking about the article that you've written concerning this. We were talking about what the military is saying about this, and I was reading here a quote. It doesn't make sense, stated battle-scarred Army Iraq veteran Robert Bartlett. $150 billion goes directly to people who killed me, my friends. And he discussed spending 4.5 years at Walter Reed, being rebuilt after being resuscitated 3 times on death's verge following a 2005 IED attack that killed and wounded his comrades. $150 billion goes directly to people who killed me and my friends, says Robert Bartlett. That's incredible. Andrew, talk about that $150 billion. Where is that coming from, and is it coming from us? And why would we give them $150 billion to fight us with?
Well, that's an estimation of the lifting of sanctions upon Iran, including, for example, its frozen assets abroad, also trade links, trade deals, and so forth. So that's the estimate of what would happen under the deal in terms of unfreeing freeing of Iran from various economic sanctions involving its assets and its trade relations. So that's the boon that the signing promise that Iran would get.
It just doesn't make any sense. Just like Robert Bartlett said, it doesn't make any sense. What do you think we should do about those sanctions? Are they really not working, or if we keep them in place, does it keep that $150 billion from going to more IEDs, more attacks on our servicemen, and perhaps even attacks here in our homeland?
Well, one criticism of the deal has been that simply by going through with it, the other countries in Europe and so forth are going to lift their sanctions, so they'll engage in trade, irrespective of what the United States will do. So there's already that bonus for Iran. And Obama and others in the administration have argued that such sanctions have a snapback quality, that if Iran starts to cheat, we can really just put them back in place and, snap back. They'll just come right back in. But in the real world, things just don't work that magically. Once you have trade links and so forth and business going on, those agencies there will say, hey, look, we don't want to lose our investment. We don't want to lose this deal. So come on, let's try to overlook a given violation and just keep going with Iran. So it really is a big boon for Iran to have full sanctions lifted abroad in Europe or from the United States. And it's hard to put it back.
Wow. I know that my co-host, Rick Trader, has some questions for you. Rick?
Here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we are speaking with Andrew Harrod and about his article, Veterans See No Peace in Our Time. Andrew, I think looking at the title of your article, I could say that most right-minded thinking at this point see no peace in our time. And Andrew, I think this all comes about because Barack Obama has botched this thing in Iran since the beginning. Before the Arab Spring, there was something called the Green Uprising. You recall that?
Yes, the Green Revolution of 2009, where Iranians took to the streets to protest after condemning election fraud in the election that year.
Right. And there were people in the streets of Tehran begging the United States, please, we can handle this. Just give us what we need at that time. Andrew, when you talk about this $150 billion that Iran will get through releasing the embargoed money, they've already have long shopping lists of weapons to use the money on. And a lot of these people might think, well, who are they dealing with, the Russians, the Chinese? But when you talk about the Europeans, a lot of the people that they want to deal with is the French and the Germans.
Well, they would certainly want economic links with the French and the Germans. Their principal weapon buys would be from Russia and China. Indeed, just recently after the deal was announced, I believe it was Qasem Soleimani, the leader of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, Quds Force, their sort of revolutionary exporting, terrorism supporting special forces group, expeditionary force, was in Moscow to help arrange for the sale of S-300 missile defense systems, which, again, if you're thinking about future missile strikes against Iran to deal with, say, a nuclear program, or if the Israelis, say, were to consider such options, then such missile defense programs are only going to make the job that much harder to deal with.
Andrew, do you see anything? This deal is very unpopular. About 70% of Americans think that this is a bad deal. Is there anything that Congress or even the Israelis do at this point to stop this deal?
Well, in Congress they're trying. There's been the House resolution, for example, passed that was passed noting that Obama hasn't actually abided by the law of the Corker-Cardin amendment that you would give to the Senate all relevant material, including any side deals on this agreement, for the Senate to make a decision and analyze it. There are, of course, still these secret side deals no one's seen between Iran and the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Association. With Israel, of course, there would be sort of the sort of last line of defense, quite literally, perhaps, if nothing comes to pass in America would be a military strike on Israel's part, given that they really feel, rightly so, endangered by this deal. Their margin of security towards Iran is far less than what the United States has. Obama, as an executive, as the president, in his executive authority, he can pretty much make any sort of personal agreement he wants. I mean, it has then no status as a treaty, so if another president comes in, he can just simply revoke it. But simply acting as an executive authority, he could very well just push this thing through, at least for the moment.
Andrew, when you talk about this deal, from what I understand, there are actually two separate deals. One that's written in Farsi, the other deal is written in English. Now, what Iran has accepted is the deal written in Farsi, and they have rejected the deal written in English. Is this what you've found out?
Well, that's another factor in treaty interpretation. Often when treaties are signed, there'll be a provision that, say, various languages of the treaty are considered official. So in this case, it could be provision that both English and Farsi are the official languages of the treaty. But then that, of course, raises a question if you have any sort of difference in the languages and in the specific interpretations of any given phrase, that raises issues of sort of wiggle room or differences of opinion of the treaty. So that's another factor to consider.
Back to your article, when we talk about all these things on with this deal, it seems like in the mix of all this, we have some Christian conservative activists that weighed in. What does this have to do with Christianity? We thought this was a deal that would affect Israel. How does that affect Christians in our nation?
Well, Christians have been, various Christian organizations have been concerned about Iran in general, and this deal in particular. I mean, one, because of an interest in standing with Israel, our allies and friends in the Jewish state, as well as also their various their incidents of Iran holding people, imprisoning people, or indeed holding them hostage. There are currently some 4 Americans imprisoned in Iran, including a pastor Sabadini, I recall his name, and they were in effect left behind by this agreement. They weren't really raised, so they're still languishing there in Iranian imprisonment, and not much has been done to help them.
Well, you're exactly right. I know that they've been raising money in several different Christian organizations for this. Pastor Abedini, who's been there for now years in prison, and it doesn't look like he's getting out anytime soon. Wasn't there something to be learned about this hostage situation from the last go-around, or is there nothing to be learned? Don't we know how to get our hostages released?
Well, if you're thinking of the 1979 case, people always point to the change of office from Ronald Reagan coming in and replacing Jimmy Carter, and the Reagans deciding that they would better let the hostages go because they were fearing a more forceful response from Reagan. I think it's ultimately then, with such individuals, it's a question of your priority in bringing pressure to bear and inflicting consequences if results are not forthcoming to release such people. But Obama apparently hasn't really. Even getting Obama to say meet with individuals concerned linked to such hostages, say the wives of the pastor, is often very difficult, and it has not been a top priority.
Andrew and Sharon, let me just jump in, because when you're talking about hostages, when you're talking about Iran, it makes you think of the 1970s all over again. The mess that Jimmy Carter made in Iran. The fact that the Shah of Iran, he wasn't a very nice guy. He wasn't somebody who was dinner, but he was our not very nice guy. And it was Jimmy Carter's meddling in Iran that helped to depose the Shah that has led us down this messy road from Iran for all these years, a mess we're still not out of. Now here, Andrew, I'm seeing the ironies of things, and I'm seeing another messy president making another mess out of things. My God, we've been in this mess with Iran for 40 years. With Barack Obama creating this mess, we'll never get out of this. So I think your article is point on. Hey, Andrew, we got to run. We want to thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Please tell our audience how they can follow your work.
You can follow me on Twitter at AE Herod, like the department store in London, or you can just simply Google my name, Andrew Herod. I'm at various websites at Front Page Magazine or the Institute on Religion and Democracy or Daily Caller or Breitbart or American Thinker or the Religious Freedom Coalition. If you simply do a Google search online, my name will easily come up. Andrew E. Herod, like the department store in London, and you will find me.
Any relation?
No, due to America, they founded Herod.
All right. Andrew Herod, thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care. God bless.
Oh, excellent being here. Thank you.
And we are going to take a break. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet with CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pundit and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. They're all .coms. Don't go away. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Myron Ebel from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Be right back.
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, folks, I'm Doug Driesel.
And Blaine Davis.
President Barack Obama. Get him out of here. But if you want your conservatism served up with a side of country comedy, then Doug and Blaine Explain the Game is for you. Coming to you from America's heartland, beautiful Cherokee Village, Arkansas, and Lake Paradise. Don't be fooled, folks. Both sides have their flaws, and Doug and Blaine Explain the Game will teach you how to get through this political season. Join us Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Tell them, Bill.
Doug and Blaine Explain the Game. I wish they wouldn't do that. Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. Factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and Sharon Engel. And if you would like to broadcast today's show, please click on our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., just log on to Leading Edge Network, edgeradionetwork.com. Now you can listen to our Conservative Commandos radio show from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And Rick, we have our next guest ready, and it's my pleasure to introduce Myron Ebel, who's the Director of Energy and Global Warming Policy at Competitive Enterprise Institute. In 2010, the Financial Times called Ebel one of America's most prominent climate change skeptics. In 2009, the Business Insider's Green Sheet named him as third in its list of the 10 most respected global warming skeptics. Myron Ebel has also been called enemy number one to the current climate change community. Ebel has appeared as a guest on numerous television shows, including ABC Evening News, NBC Nightly News, PBS News Hour, BBC News Night, BBC World, CNBC, CNN, C-SPAN's Washington Journal, MSNBC, PBS, NOW, Fox News, Special Report with Brett Baer, O'Reilly Factor, Hannity and Combs, and many, many others. Myron, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks for having me, Sharon.
Well, it's always our pleasure, Myron. And of course, we can't help but love having enemy number one of current climate change community, number one climate change skeptic. That's pretty nice, Myron. Thank you for being such a fighter for the freedom of information, if you will, the freedom to know the truth. But we were looking at your latest article, California's Path to Climate Nirvana hit some snags. Don't tell me that finally they're done with their climate change stuff in California. They're not going to be able to run roughshod over that state anymore. Is that what you're saying, or is it just a little snag?
Well, the news is not as good as you might hope. California, the legislature just concluded their session Friday, and they had two big bills to go further down this road of energy rationing and higher energy prices and killing their economy. The bill that was passed on Friday increases the mandatory target for reducing greenhouse gas emissions from, right now it's 33% less, fewer greenhouse gas emissions by 2020, and now they've got a target for 2030. It's now got to be 50% less from a baseline of some years ago. So, the good news in California is they don't have any economic growth, so they don't have any, their greenhouse gas emissions are not increasing. So that's from the electric utility sector. So everybody who lives in California, their electric rates are going to keep going up. The good news is, and this is where the snag came in, the electric utilities actually support all this stuff in California, but the oil industry opposed a similar provision to cut oil use by 50% by 2030. So they didn't have enough political support, and they had to take it out.
Okay. Like you said, it's not as good as we would have hoped for. They have really been doing some most amazing things in California. As you know, I'm in the state right next door, and we can almost always count on having whatever California has 10 years later. It's just one of those things that goes right across that border. It seems like it's porous when it comes to EPA regulation and this whole climate change phenomena. But
Sharon, I got to interrupt you for a minute, because out here in New Jersey, we call ourselves the Little California. And if it takes 10 years to get across the California-Nevada border, it takes about 18 months to get across the California-New Jersey border. Sorry to interrupt, but that's just the way it is.
Well, we're all watching California, so when you say these little bills, we kind of are very shy of little bills that get passed, but this idea of 50% now, how do they think they're going to go about doing that? How do they regulate that, and how do they police it or enforce it? What goes on there, Myron?
Well, there aren't very many electric utilities in the state. It's a huge state with over 40 million people, but the utilities are very large. So what they, it's up to the utilities to figure out how to get renewable energy into their mix, more and more of it. Now, they built a huge number of windmills, and they're still building lots of solar farms in California. The good news for California is it's not as expensive as it would be if they had to pay the full price, but there are federal subsidies for both wind power and solar power. So American taxpayers all across the country are helping pay for these policies in California. So I don't think it's hard to enforce. It's going to be very hard for the utilities to reach these targets because, as you know, the wind doesn't blow all the time and the sun doesn't shine all the time, and so you can build a windmill that's, say, rated at 1 gigawatt, but it may only produce at 1/3 of that during the course of the year, and so 2/3 of the time you'll have to have some other source. Now, it could be another windmill in some other area that's blowing, but often, the wind dies down and all over at the same time. So, if the wind is low across the state, then they're going to have backup power, and that means a conventional natural gas power plant. And every time you turn one of those on and get it going, it takes more power than if you run it all the time. So that increases emissions. So it gets very complicated in planning, and that's one of the reasons that people are predicting not only is California going to have much more expensive electricity, but there are some areas that are going to start having less reliable electricity.
Well, isn't that what caused the brownouts? Maybe I'm aging myself or dating myself, but California had some brownouts. I guess it's been about 20 years ago, because they were not able to supply the energy that was necessary to keep everything going, and it had a lot to do with this energy demand that the law had made on them. Am I dreaming, or did that really happen?
Well, what happened the first time is that California deregulated their electric markets, but they did it they only deregulated half of the market. That is, and so they deregulated one end of it, but not the other, and the consequence was that it was very easy for the providers to game the system, and at some point, instead of having long-term contracts, they had to go and buy power each day on a spot market, and that raised the price, and then it also eventually led to these blackouts. So that was actually different than these global warming policies, reduce gas emissions. So you'd think that, given their experience with the blackouts and brownouts of 2 decades ago, that they would now say, hey, we don't actually know what we're doing at the governmental level. Why don't we let the private market and the companies in the market figure this out? But no, they're back, and they've got a new system to achieve nirvana, and in this case it's global warming nirvana, and I think it's just pricing regular people out of living in California, and it's really hurting jobs. Manufacturers can't make it in California. So, it's just bad news.
We have to go to a break, Myron, for a couple of minutes. Can you stay with us through the break?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We are coming to you live from WNJC, our flagship station in Philadelphia at WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet from CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, Dependent Press, Stream Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7, and those are all .com. Now you can listen to our show at any time on our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. We'll be right back with Rick Trader, Sharon Engel, and our guest, Myron Ebel, talking about climate change one more time in California.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Europe at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We've been talking with Myron Ebel, who's been called public enemy number one to the climate change folks, and he's been talking about what they've been doing in California with the electric companies. But another part of this bill that I guess got written out was the part that had to do with cutting the emissions from motor vehicles by 50%, as well as cutting the emissions from the electric companies. And this senator that's been running this bill says that the California electric utilities supported the bill, as well as some folks in Hollywood, but she drives up in her big SUV. So there's a hypocrisy that goes on here. But I don't get it, Myron. Why do the electric companies support something that's obviously going to kind of cramp their economic style?
Part of it is the politics of California. I think, the people who live in the interior of California, out in the San Joaquin Valley, for example, out in the desert where all the food is grown, places like Bakersfield and Fresno, they don't really count. It's Los Angeles and the San Francisco Bay Area. These are very politically liberal. To be popular, you need to be green. The utilities don't want to get on the wrong side of that, because these are very powerful, wealthy people. And, wealthy people, it doesn't matter whether your electric rates go up from, $400 a month to $500 a month. I mean, that's a small percentage of their income. If you're, working a more typical middle class or working class job, if you have a 20% increase in your electric rates, that's a very big deal. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that the electric utilities are guaranteed a rate of return. So it doesn't matter how much the electric rates go up; they get the same amount of profit. So they don't lose anything. It's not like they lose something if the state is going downhill economically, and maybe they'll eventually sell less power because people will be producing less and be able to afford less electricity in their homes. But other than that, they're guaranteed a rate of return, so they don't care.
Wow. Well, I just find it incredible. It just seems like everyone's in this almost a hypocritical mode in California. Just the idea that this Senator De Leon, who is the one who has written this bill, was parading it through their legislature. She doesn't have her good car to drive. She's driving this big SUV. Is that just her, or is it everyone that has that hypocrisy going on that you find on that side of the aisle?
Well, I don't know actually about Senator Fran Pavley, who is kind of the leader of all this. The Senate President pro tem, Kevin De Leon, who was the sponsor of the bill that actually passed, SB 350, he does drive a big SUV. And in California, unlike with the U.S. Congress and in most states, the California legislators get an auto allowance, a vehicle allowance from in addition to their salary. So they typically, go for they're able to buy very luxurious vehicles, and many of them go for very big SUVs like Lincoln Navigators and the whatever the Cadillac one is called. So yeah, there's some hypocrisy there, but that doesn't really bother me as much as kind of the stupidity of thinking that these policies are actually doing anything other than harming California's economy, which is already in terrible shape. And I wish, I wouldn't mind it if they were hypocrites, if they could figure that out.
You're right. And I know that Rick Trader has some questions for you now. Rick?
Yeah, here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're speaking with Ebal from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Myron, what's the prize of this contest in California? I mean, this contest they're having to out-wacky each other. What's the prize?
Well, you get invited to very fashionable parties in both the Bay Area and in Hollywood and Beverly Hills.
It just seems ridiculous to me, Myron, because they keep trying to one-up each other, and as you say, it's already their economy is already in shambles. Their state budget has a deficit. I think it's $40 billion, if I'm not mistaken. But yet they keep doing these things to shoot themselves in the foot. Myron, earlier you were speaking with Sharon about the subsidies that the rest of America are paying for. Could you tell us, or do you know what these subsidies are costing the rest of America?
Yes. The wind subsidy comes out to 2.3 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 10 years of production. So that is, the wholesale rate of a coal-fired power plant is maybe 4 or 5 cents per kilowatt hour.
Right.
So you can see that that's a big subsidy.
Yeah.
And over time, it turns into a lot of money. I think that the estimate of extending the wind subsidy for 2 more years would cost, and this is for new wind farms, and so that each new windmill would get the 10-year subsidy of production, would cost something over well over $10 billion. The solar subsidy is not a production subsidy where you get for every kilowatt hour you produce, you get 2.3 cents. The solar subsidy is an investment tax credit. So when you build the solar panels, you can take 30% off the cost and get a tax credit for that. That then costs billions of dollars a year.
Well, Myron, when you and Sharon were talking, I so rudely interrupted you when I said that whatever happens in California crosses the California-New Jersey border in about 18 months. Out here in New Jersey, we're already subsidizing wind and solar. The stupid government in Trenton forces consumers to buy this alternative energy that is produced by solar and wind. And I think the figure is it costs 16 times, at least here in Jersey, it's costing ratepayers 16 times more to buy this wind and solar energy than it is to buy energy from traditional coal, oil, gas, or nuclear. So it's happening all over the country. It seems to me, Myron, and I'm switching gears a little bit on you right here, it seems to me the state of California should worry about where it's going to get its next drink of water rather than how many holes we're going to shoot in our economy, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. Look, we have this big financial crisis in 2008, and we had a big recession, and we've never gotten back to an adequate rate of growth, economic growth. We still have significant population increase, and we're still the per capita income of Americans is below what it was in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to get back on the kind of traditional 3% per year economic growth in this country, and remember we have about 1% population growth, so it's really 2%. You subtract the 1 from the 3, and you get, so we have 2%. We're way below that now, and the economy's struggling, and all these energy policies that are being pursued by states like California and New Jersey, and by the Obama administration and the Environmental Protection Agency, these policies are mean that we're never going to get back to those rates, because our energy prices are going to continue to take a larger chunk of people's incomes, and that means they have less money to spend on other things. It means there's less money to invest in new businesses. So this is not hard. There's nothing people say, oh, how are we ever going to get the economy going again? Well, as Governor Rick Perry, who just dropped out of the presidential race, he said, look, it's simple what we need to do. It's just politically difficult. We need some people with some guts to do it and who understand that. Reagan didn't have a huge program when he came in 81. He said if we can lower the top tax rate so people have more incentive to work and to invest, we'll get the economy going. Well, it didn't take a whole raft of economists to figure that out. And I think the effect of these EPA regs that will force the entire country, not just California, to switch from coal and natural gas to wind and solar. These EPA regs are, we have to stop them. If we don't, there's going to be a big chunk taken out of our economic growth every year from here on out. So,
Myron Abel, we are running a little over on time. We want to thank you, Myron. Please tell our audience where they could go to follow your work. Globalwarming.org. Globalwarming.org, and you can sign up for our weekly energy and environment newsletter. Myron Abel, thank you so much for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care. God bless. Thanks. We are going to take a break here listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, WNJC 1360 in Philly, around the world on the internet with our internet broadcast partners, CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Pun and Press, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AMFM247.com. On the other side, we're going to try something a little different. We're going to hear from some of our listeners. Don't go away. We will be right back.
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many farms, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. Even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. And Sharon, we're going to try something new here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. We're going to be talking with some of our listeners. We're going to call them correspondents to find out what's going on in their world, what's going on in their mind. And our first one up is Lou from North Carolina. Lou, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hi, Rick. It's good to be here.
Great to have you with us. Lou, as I say to my co-hosts every day, what's on your radar screen this day, my friend?
Well, Fox News did a great investigative report that they released today about illegal immigrant crime in America, which is, I think, on everybody's radar with some of the high-profile cases that have been in the news lately, but they've had a really hard time. The takeaway from the article more than anything is that they went to ICE and to the federal government and to different authorities to try to find out how many illegal immigrants were committing crimes and what percentage of crimes were committed by illegal immigrants, and ran into a lot of roadblocks. The data is not tracked, and it was very difficult. They did find a lot of information, one of which is that California needs to worry about this is what next drink of water it's coming from, by the way. But
do you like that, Lou?
They had to, but they did have to, they really had to dig for it, and they had to go to the state, and it's not tracked at the federal level.
Hey, Lou, let me tell you a little story. I don't know if you were listening to our show yesterday. I told this yesterday. A few weeks ago, I booked a hotel room in Richmond, Virginia. I used one of these online internet places that you go to book a hotel room, right? And it was like one of these Quality Inn, Comfort Inns, not a high-priced hotel, just a moderately priced hotel. I'm a conservative. I don't like to spend a lot of money. And when I went to register, they asked for a photo ID. And I gave them a U.S. passport. Guess what they said to me, Lou?
That wasn't good enough?
That wasn't good enough. They refused to accept a U.S. passport. Now, in different states, if you want to get a driver's license, Lou, you gotta produce such thing as your birth certificate, your marriage license, your utility bills, your Social Security card, your credit card information, just to get a license. And Lou, what aggravates me, all this came about, or most of this came about, because of 9/11. And rightfully so. We do need to protect ourselves. We are living in a very dangerous age. But Lou, it seems like when it comes to these people coming over our southern border, or these people that Barack Obama want to bring here from Syria, they don't have to worry about that stuff. They just let them in. They don't care who they are or what their intentions are. They're going to let them in. I, as a U.S. citizen, could not register in a hotel in Richmond, Virginia. That I prepaid for.
And that's just crazy. But the result is that we've got hundreds of thousands that are being, over the course of a few years have been released and reincarcerated, and released and reincarcerated. And even though the percentage of the population for these people is about 3.5%, the percentage of crime seems to be, from what Fox has dug up, somewhere between 10 and 15% of crime.
In that article, does it say anything about the percentage of illegal people in our by any chance?
It does, but it breaks it down by state, and there were several states that they named that wouldn't report at all, and so it varies.
Sharon Engel, let me bring you into this conversation. Why do you think the states are reluctant to release this information?
I don't know exactly, but I know that we don't want to in Nevada because so many are hired by the casino industry.
Okay, give me that.
They stated in the article that the comment that they gave, some of them gave Fox, that the reason they don't track it is that they fear reprisal from the federal government if they do.
Wow. That's amazing.
Right, yeah, that's the scariest thing, I think, in the article, is that the states aren't even allowed to do it because they fear some kind of backlash from the federal government.
Wow, that's incredible. Hey, Lou, we want to thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Great stuff, my friend.
Great to be with you. You guys, you and Sharon, you guys have a good day.
Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Hey, Sharon, we are going to take a quick break before we bring our next listener in. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. You can also check us out on our internet rebroadcasting partners, CPR Worldwide Media, Leading Edge Radio Network, TalkStream Live, The Prominent Press, AM/FM 24/7, and they're all.com. You can also check out our website, ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Sharon and I will be right back.
You see, I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, network.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast and podcast of our show, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. And we're doing something a little different here on Conservative Commandos. We want to find out what's on the minds of some of our listeners and our with us. And actually, this gentleman is not just a guest here on Conservative Commandos, but has a new show here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. And that's Doug Driesel, like Diesel. Doug, welcome Doug, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
It is absolutely that easy to say my name. And how are you guys doing? Sharon, I'm sure you've got all the beauty in the room.
Well, thank you.
Doug, it's great to have you with us. It's also great to have your show with us here as part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. Tell us about Doug and Blaine.
Well, Doug and Blaine explained the game actually rose from my friend Blaine Davis and I ran for state representatives, which is like I would assume in Pennsylvania like a count. I don't know what you guys call assemblyman. In the last election, and Blaine was beaten by 25 votes in the swing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was beaten by about 350. You know, very, very small margins in 10 to 15,000 person areas. Then we actually got to looking at the job and realized that by actually running again, we would be muzzled, you know, because a lot of the problems that are going on that we need to be attacking out there as conservatives are, once you get elected to an office, they start trying to figure out ways to stifle these opinions and make you a little more politically palatable. And I'm just not one to go for the politically palatable when I see something wrong, you know.
Well, Doug, you're not alone in this conversation. People that have run for office and found out what's behind it. Our friend, my co-host, Sharon Engel, served on the state legislature in Nevada, ran for U.S. Senate against Harry Reid. So, Sharon, I guess you've had similar experiences.
Of course, and I've had those close races too. And you always have to wonder when the race is so close, just how much would have been gained had we been able to admit that there is some corruption in our election system, usually as much as 3% in every state, and sometimes as much as 10% some states. So when I hear those small numbers, I'm always skeptical.
Knowing that number, knowing that Blaine lost at a 25-vote swing, we're pretty sure he won. The dead vote record side, and we all know it, and we know that we know it's a real problem. And we know voter corruption is getting worse and worse and worse. And Sharon, I just wanted to say I was pulling for you in that Harry Reid contest, but I also now empathize with you very much so because even our own party here, which the RPA in Arkansas is not what we consider to be a conservative party, Republican Party of Arkansas, even they helped to try to destroy Blaine and I's credentials. And I think you saw some of the same stuff in your race. And,
I think we're going to see that across the nation in every race where we have true conservative leadership that has been running in that state. I know that Joe Miller saw it. We watched it happen when they turned right around the Republican establishment and ran Lisa Murkowski as an independent. So, as an independent write-in, how does that happen when your own party abandons you like that? But it's very common.
Sharon, I can tell both of you guys that Blaine and I both received exactly $0 from the Republican Party of Arkansas, exactly zero. And I raised $4,200. Blaine raised about $9,000, and we still almost beat the incumbents. So we feel pretty good. However, now, guys, fast forward to today. And we realized the good Lord had a better plan for all of us because here we are on Conservative Commandos telling the world the truth. And the truth is something that is very hard to get across at the marble step level, as you well know.
Well, as our good friend J.D. Manier would say if he was here quoting Lincoln, give us the truth and the truth will set you free. And, Doug, when you talk about Republicans talk about other Republicans, it's amazing. Now, I'm not a Donald Trump fan. Okay, I don't think Donald Trump is a conservative. I don't think anybody that's for higher taxes, national health care, state taking over people's property is a conservative guy. But it amazes me how the rest of the Republican Party, the mainstream Republican Party, how a lot of the Republican candidates are actually bashing Donald Trump, but I think it's backfiring on him.
Well, here's what's happening. Now, you just said something like you're saying, wow, Doug says he's against Donald Trump. Let me line this up for you, okay? And I line it up on my show quite regularly, and next week it will be Blaine and I both will tee up on this. Blaine is not a Trump fan either, except for the same reason that I am. I don't think Donald Trump's morals stand for my morals. I don't think Donald Trump's, the way he lives stands for the way I live. But I think this. I think that we have a $19 trillion debt that is spiraling. It is absolutely going to pummel our country in the next 6 to 8 months. And by the time the election rolls around, if we actually get to have an election, sorry, I'm one of those kind of people too, then we have to step back and take note that if we want to be able to fight for religious liberty and fight for the right for children to be born in this country and fight for all the rights that we really want to fight for, we're going to have a country left to fight for. And I got to tell you, at $19 trillion, we're in sinking sand, kids. And I'm looking all around the room at the rest of them. And I love Ted Cruz. I played it at his house. Me and him are old friends. That's not the point. I am looking for the guy that can fiscally fix this country in the next 4 years. So then we can move back to to be having the arguments that we need to have, and the directions that we need to turn, because we're about to lose our country, gang.
Well, I agree with you on that, Doug. I think we're also about to lose our country because of not enforcing our immigration laws. What I see, and Sharon, I wanted to bring you in on this. What I like about Donald Trump is he is saying some things that I wish some other Republicans were saying when Donald Trump talks about our immigration policies.
Well, you're absolutely right, Rick, about him saying what the people want to hear. He absolutely invigorates every audience that he speaks before, and that's why they flock to see him, because they want to hear those things said. But, then you have to get on the flip side of it and say, well, we've heard a lot of pretty words from a lot of different politicians in our time, and sometimes they say one thing and do another. Can we trust this guy? And that's my question to you.
Well, Sharon, this is my answer to you on that. You just said the key word, politician. Blaine and I both were not politicians. I'm a professional in the entertainment business. All I've ever done is make records and make TV shows. That's it. I have no my life, except for the fact that I'm not wealthy, Donald Trump, in some ways, and that I have no political leanings whatsoever. I woke up one and I saw the 6 million children being slaughtered in this country yearly, and I said, enough. And I jumped in the race. It nearly destroyed me. But out of the other side came the good thing. Doug and Blaine explained the game. We now can step forward. Is Donald playing a game? Yes, guys, he's playing a game. But let me tell you the game he's playing. When he gets in there, I think he actually has the wherewithal to get that job done, because he's not a politician. He will owe nobody anything.
Hey, Doug and Sharon, something that Sharon and I have talked about in the past, if you look at who's ahead in these polls, you got Donald Trump, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina. I mean, here are three people that never held political office, yet they're ahead of the polls. What do you make of that, Doug?
What does that tell us, Sharon?
Well, it tells us that people don't want politicians, but I'm going to tell you that politician is the name you get the moment you put your name on a ballot anyplace. So, sorry to tell you, but you may not be a career politician, but anytime you jump into the political forum, you get that label, politician, whether you like it or not. And so Donald Trump, Carly Fiorina, and Ben Carson, whether they like it or not, they're still politicians. They're in that political game, and they are politicking us now. And so we have to put them under the same scrutiny that we would any other person running for office.
Hey, Doug, we only got about 3 minutes left. I know you wanted to respond to that, but instead I would like you to once again tell our audience about your show that's here on WNJC 1360 as part of the Conservative Commandos radio network.
Because as opposed to what I'm doing right now, sounding very serious, you've already heard the show, and we're very light. Sharon, you'd like it. What we do is we bring comedy forward and make points for people that they can digest with a little belly laugh and a lot of fun. And the good news is, me and my friend Blaine Davis, we live in the flyover states. We live in Cherokee Village. I live in Cherokee Village, Arkansas, which is at the very top of Arkansas, right in the middle of the United States, and one of the most beautiful places on earth. We sit in Lake Paradise Studios, and we turn out a show each week that is fun, that has great, clean humor that you can enjoy again and again and again, and still the point that you need to get. I'm glad that everyone has their own candidate in this race. That's why we're having a primary, and I'm glad that everyone has their issues. And on our show, we do not support one candidate, because Blaine and I support two different candidates. What we are trying to show you is how the game is being played against you. And are you a willful participant like a mullet, or are you somebody who's watching out for the person behind you with the knife? And that's what our show is all about.
Doug Driesel, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Conservative Commandos radio show and for being part of the Conservative Commandos radio network. Doug and Blaine Explain the Game is heard here on Tuesday afternoons at 1 p.m. Doug, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you for putting me in the room with Sharon. Sharon, I've always wanted to meet you and hope to meet you in person.
Someday we'll
I'd
make
like
that
to
happen.
come on your show.
Hey, with that, Sharon, we have to wrap it up. I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank our other guests today, Andrew Harrod and Myron Ebel. I want to thank our listeners, but for right now, we got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
The blind loyalty of black Americans to President Obama is not paying off. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, believe it or not, other than the horrendous decades of slavery in America, as well as the Great Depression, the overall quality of life for black Americans and Americans overall has never been worse than right now during the tenure of the Obama administration. The number and sorts of economic records being set by the Obama economy keeps mounting. According to a new report by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, a greater percentage of U.S. children live in poverty now than during the Great Recession. The study shows poverty rates among all children have grown since 2008, when the rate was 18%, then was 22% by 2013. But for black American children, the poverty rate is an astounding 40%, the highest rate of any race or group throughout the United States. Basically, as I predicted before Obama was elected to the presidency the first time in 2008, he has done to America, particularly black Americans, what had been first done to Detroit, economically, morally, and spiritually. Yet, despite the abysmal conditions of black Americans being made much worse under Obama, most of them remain loyal. Oh well, I guess they can appease themselves by blaming Republicans or just George W. Bush. Ron Edwards.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Hey folks, Slickery Trigger here. I'd like to take a minute to tell you about Rebel Road Tactical. As a defensive pistol instructor, I've had the opportunity to observe many different holster designs and configurations. And one thing is clear. Many of my students won't carry a pistol. Or worse, they'll carry one without a holster at all. Holster designers aren't making holsters for normal people. It seems that most holsters are either an expensive piece of gear designed for Rambo or a piece that doesn't fit or function the way real people need it to fit and function. So, like any good Texan, I decided to learn to form kydex and design one myself, one that would fit the needs of average people. The result is the Rebel Road Tactical CRT Modular. The CRT stands for Carry, Range, and Training. Its thin and lightweight curved design minimizes printing and is adjustable to fit just right for superior comfort and function. Check us out after the show at rebelroadconcealed.blogspot.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 $3 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.